take projection.
It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And we got a lot to cover this week. We're recording on Wednesday, so there won't be any Dynamite coverage on this podcast, but we will make up for that with...
Which means Dynamite, something crazy is going to happen.
Something crazy is going to fucking pop off,
because
that's how this works with us.
Yeah.
But we're recording because tomorrow night there's Battle at the Ball Field that we're going to go to. Big New South Pro Wrestling event happening at the Trash Pandas Stadium, minor league ball team here in Huntsville. So yeah, let's get into it. We have a new TikTok account, by the way. We're told that's the way to.
This is what the kids are on.
This is what the kids are doing.
We got to get where the kids is at.
Right. We're going to be sharing some little videos, little clips from our podcast every week. So be on the lookout for that if that's your thing. It's at Alabama Slam Pod, just like our Twitter and our Instagram. And let's jump in. We got SmackDown from Friday night. Basically the last few months we haven't really touched on much of the wrestling on the SmackDown shows. We just basically get into what's happening with the bloodline.
Yeah, because Shakespeare is happening on Friday nights.
Samoan Shakespeare, as we titled our episode a couple weeks ago. So big events Friday night at the very end of SmackDown.
I just have a feeling that in 10 years we're going to look back and be like, my God, what a blessing it was to be around and to watch this as it unfolded week after week. Because this is, I don't even know what else to say.
Chef's kiss.
I mean, it's these four guys, Jimmy, Jay, Roman, Paul, and to some extent Solo, who is the newcomer to the story and doesn't really add that much, I don't think. He just kind of stands there. I mean, he's got his place, but like the chemistry these guys have, the acting ability these guys have, the ability to tell a story with just facial expressions, to make this as compelling as what it has been, when it really, if you think about it, I mean, it hasn't gotten a ton of week after week play up until like very recently, right? Like there have been a lot of moments where Roman has been away for a month, and that's where, like, earlier this year, Sami Zayn kind of carried it a little bit, and then, now he's out of the picture, but now we have the full-on dissolution of the bloodline happens Friday night with just a master stroke of genius promo work by both Jimmy and Jay.
So do you yell in your living room?
I did not yell, but I did, I'd had a smile watching it because I think I understood. I've talked about this before and I've written about it for the Alabama Take. Like, there are certain moments, this happens in sports, where there's an electricity that kind of comes through the screen where you're sitting there watching it and you're going, oh, this is special. And I'm like a part of history right now. And I had that Friday night watching the segment.
Yeah. So I've mentioned this a couple times. By the time SmackDown goes off the air on Friday nights, I'm already at least 2, maybe a third glass of bourbon deep, right? So when Jay's all emotional and yelling at Jimmy, I was like, all right, cool. I was like, we're getting this happening. And he was like, I was chasing you. He was like, the MVP of the team, you voted most successful, whatever. And he's like, and you're out. Yeah. And I'm out too. And I was like, okay, so now what? But the way oh my God, that kick, I've watched that kick about 10 times since then. I jumped out of my damn recliner.
Yeah.
I mean, I popped big time in my living room.
Yeah. Just Jimmy's absolutely just excellent delivery of you're out and I'm out too. And then the immediate kick happens.
Yeah.
Even where there was a picture that WWE posted on their Twitter account where it's just like, if you ever go on that Reddit thread, like accidental Renaissance, where it's just like these pictures that could be like hanging up in an art museum somewhere, because it's Jay's boot in Roman's face. It's Solo just standing there, not even paying attention. And it's Paul Heyman like smiling in the corner as like all hell's breaking loose. It's just a perfect snapshot. And it encapsulates everything that's so good about this story. But even the kick, and then you see Paul Heyman roll out of the ring, and then Roman, his arrogance, where he gets back up and runs back into another one, right? Because he doesn't he's like, oh, well, they're not going to do it twice. and then they kick him, and then his bump he takes on the second one is just absolutely brilliant. Part of me, and we'll come back around to this when we talk about the debut episode of Collision. You know, when we were talking about the Bloodline story for these couple of weeks, we've been talking about, okay, how fast are they going to accelerate the end of this story in the big breakup? And I guess I'll ask you this question, and I'll pose it out to our listeners too. They can hit us up on Twitter and let us know. Is the fact that they've moved so fast on this Bloodline story have anything to do with the fact that CM Punk is back in AEW?
That's a good question because, I mean, in theory, all this is going to keep going until Mania next year.
You would imagine, yeah.
So is it just going to be Solo and Roman for what, another 8 months? I
mean, I would be. It's curious to think about if in a perfect world, if the CM Punk return to AEW is not happening right now, do they stretch this thing out more, or do they still keep on this timeline that they've been going on?
I mean, you know, they could say to hell with it and wrap it up by the end of the year if they really wanted to. I
mean, Roman could be completely solo, no pun intended, right, by the time that WrestleMania next year rolls around.
Yeah, because, I mean, what more? I mean, I say what more can happen after this?
Well, now I'm guessing at SummerSlam we're going to have, or Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank, yeah, we get the Usos
versus Roman and Solo.
But, I mean, like after that, then what?
Do you do a 4-way at SummerSlam for the title? Who wants to be the real tribal chief? Roman versus Solo versus Jimmy versus Jay?
That's a good question.
But you know,
because there's still probably going to be a little tension between Jay and Jimmy, right? Because
I don't know. I think they're full together now.
Because I was just wondering, based on the fact that, you know, Roman outed Jimmy as being a doubter of Jay.
Yeah, which was
like, does that come back up?
Yeah. Also, it's just a brilliant move on his part. That's just a fucking bad guy. Be like, you should hear what this dude. There was only one person that didn't like you being the right-hand man, right? And it's your brother. Everything about that was so brilliant. I even loved the little moment. You know, we've talked about a lot about how the invisible camera stuff backstage, when it's done well, can really pull you into the story. And just the little moment where Jay's walking out to the ring and Sammy's just kind of hanging out, and they just share a glance, and Sammy walks off. That kind of stuff is just little moments like that is what make it special. Yeah.
Because what's he doing right there?
They're just hanging out.
Other than like trying to put himself there for, if you're thinking about it,
full on kayfabe. Yeah, if you're full kayfabe with this, why is Sammy there? Maybe it's just
because he wanted to be there. He knew where to be.
He knew where to be for Jay walking out the ring.
Yeah.
Because I think Sammy still has, you know, in kayfabe, Sammy still has a lot of love for Jay. I'm sure.
Do they bring him back into the story at some point?
And I don't think I would. I think that's a clean break after what they did in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of moved on from that part of the story. But I like little moments like that where they can share a glance and it comes back up.
Yeah.
It's going to be sad when this is all said and done, because I don't know if we're going to get a story like this. Not ever again. We probably will get something similar, but like, how long does it take?
Yeah.
Because it's magic, man. Like, you don't get dance partners like this where everybody is like just so in line with each other in the way that these guys are.
Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss at this point. I mean, just from like, what else do we say about it? Because we've covered it for months and months now, and to me, kind of feels like it's at the end or very near the end, because of the betrayal. I just figured that would have lasted longer.
Like I said, maybe it all got accelerated because
of Punk.
Oh, One Bill Phil has made his return to All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, we'll get there, shortly.
But no, this is, I mean, and also too, I remember this point. This is what I wanted to bring up. You know, in sports and in wrestling, there are guys who are not guys. I should say superstars who are elevators, meaning guys who would, no matter what teammate you put around them or whoever you put them in the ring with, they elevate that guy or that girl to a different level, right? This is what made Ric Flair so great. Ric Flair helped make the career of Sting. Ric Flair helped make the career of Ricky Steamboat. I mean, all these guys. You go down the list, right? And not every superstar at the top of the card is really an elevator like that. I mean, you think about a guy like John Cena. For as much as I love John Cena, as much as I think that he's been undervalued in the eyes of modern day wrestling fans, who did he really elevate at time when he was as his time on top? I mean, I guess you could say Edge, right? But Roman is a dude who is an elevator of talent. Like when he says to Jimmy and Jay, you guys, they didn't even know who the two of you were until I came along. In kayfabe, that's true. And also, like, in reality, that's true. Like, Roman Reigns elevates the talent of the people that are around him.
I didn't give two shits about the Usos before the Bloodline story.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a special quality in and of itself. Like I said, that like not a lot of guys have. I mean, even you look at somebody like The Rock. Was The Rock really an elevator of guys around him? He just happened to have other big time superstars. Like he had Stone Cold, who was an icon in his own right. He had Mankind, who was an icon in his own right, beloved by the hardcore smart wrestling fans during the 90s. I mean, not a lot of dudes have this ability to pull people up to their level. And so that...
Yeah, was that just good timing on his part? Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, even you look at a guy like Triple H. Triple H spent a lot of time atop the card. Who did he pull up to his level beside him? I mean, I guess you could say like a guy like Batista. But Batista, like, yeah, he turns on Triple H, but then he goes and makes a name for himself on a different show away from Triple H. Like, there's something to be said about not only is our guy like a top level superstar and moves a lot of merch and moves a lot of TV ratings, but also he makes guys around him better.
Yeah.
And that's a special ability that not a lot of people have.
I mean, even a veteran like Sami Zayn, you know?
Sami Zayn's perfect.
Sami's top level, like, I mean, maybe not top level talent when you look at things in the big picture, but like, who's been more over than Sami in the last year?
Sami's always been a really talented guy who, like, if you're looking at it objectively, his time on the main roster, you could say, oh, he hasn't lived up to the expectation that he had when he was in NXT until he pairs up with who? Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect storm. Like, the story was right, the timing was right, probably, you know.
And we see
he had a shot and he fucking took it.
And he's there, sharing the screen with a dude like Roman Reigns. We see this in sports a lot of times, like especially in basketball. Dudes are sometimes they're just on the wrong team, and they're playing out of position, or they're not playing with a guy that can share the ball or put them in the right position to succeed. And then they move teams, and all of a sudden they're an all-star and averaging 22 points a game or whatever. Yeah. So that's something that I think aside from how great Roman is on the mic and how great he is in the ring, his ability to just be able to share the spotlight with people and pull them up to his level is, honestly, I think is his best trait, really.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with that. Do you have any more on that, or do you move on to Raw?
Was there anything? No, because, the other stuff from WWE is all on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. So, again, not much about the wrestling on this one today, but I just want to take a minute to rant about why does Logan Paul just get a spot in Money in the Bank? This ain't how this works.
I mean, kind of it's how it's worked, right? Right? He's Logan Paul.
Yeah, but fuck this, man. There's another way you could put him at the show. Because let's just say he happens to win. Can you imagine the fucking heat that's on him because he's just a guy that got a spot because he's Logan Paul?
And some, like myself, might argue that's kind of the whole point.
Well, fuck you.
Because like we talked about, my whole reason why I thought Dom should win Money in the Bank is because whoever wins Money in the Bank's not going to challenge Roman because those titles are on their own island doing their own thing. No pun intended, on their own island of relevancy over there. They're embroiled in another story. You just gave it to Seth Rollins. You're going to take it away from him right now? So really the Money in the Bank needs to go to somebody who can, one, take a loss, but also the fact that they have the briefcase can help them with their gimmick, with their character. Which is why Dominic Mysterio, to me, is still the perfect choice. But obviously, he's not in the match. So who is the next guy like that you could take? Because, like, take a guy like LA Knight, right? For as over as he is, you don't want him eating a loss right now.
No, not. Yeah, I mean, fuck. You're making a point.
Now, part of the problem is we've already seen Seth Rollins and Logan Paul. It just happened. Do they do the shocker of shockers? Do they have Logan win, cash in, and beat Seth Rollins? If you really wanted to maximize,
there's still plenty of time to put the belt back on him later when he's doing press for Captain America. That movie ain't coming out for another year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, and we talked about on the podcast, I think a couple weeks ago, the fact these long title reigns, at some point, do they break the mold that they've been doing recently and kind of hot potato one of these titles around a little bit?
Yeah.
And I guess if you're going to decide to do that with one of the world titles, you do it with the one that Seth has and not the one that Roman has. I'm not saying that's the right choice.
Unless the winner went after Gunther's title.
Which would just...
but are you going to cash in Money in the Bank for that?
Yeah, that's dumb. That's idiotic.
Yeah, you're going for one of the big dogs if you get that chance.
Yeah, and last Money in the Bank winner was what? Austin Theory, who was kind of thought of as a buffoon when he had the briefcase. Had a failed cash in. Something to be said. Maybe this person should win it. And maybe they do pull the trigger. Maybe they look at the responses that LA Knight's getting and they go, hey, we tried to deny this guy. We tried to pipe in crowd boos.
Maybe. Like, what if Balor and Rollins just beat the ever-loving hell out of each other next Saturday and then somebody sees an opportunity?
Yeah. Which would... for a guy like Logan Paul, if you were really trying to maximize the heat, that's the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, because, I feel like Seth and Finn are going to literally beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, I like this story, too, because there's a lot of meat there with the history that they have from, I think it's now, good God, 7 years ago?
Yeah, because,
long time.
Finn, if you didn't get to see Raw, Finn beat the fuck out of Seth, like, on the ringside.
And then I think he jumped him Tuesday night, too, after in NXT.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, I think after the Seth and Braun match, Finn came back out and beat the shit out of Seth again. Yeah, I don't know. This is it's quite the conundrum they've put themselves in. And maybe they just put Logan Paul in the match because they were like, hey, we need somebody else. Like, who are you going to give the other spot to? Like, why not have it be Logan Paul? He can do something cool with Ricochet again.
You watch Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
I'm just going to start grunting every time we talk about this Logan Paul. Roy Kent.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's the obvious choice is to give it to Logan Paul. If this truly is a different WWE under different management, maybe they go in a different direction. But if old Mr. Mustache McMahon is really back, then I think in London at the O2, fucking Logan Paul is going to have that briefcase. And if he wins the briefcase, I'd bet money that he walks out of London the World Heavyweight Champion.
So then you got to start being on TV more often.
Or at least, Roman wasn't on TV every single week. So, but I part of me was like, well, why did you even, if they do go down the route of giving it to Logan Paul, kind of the whole point of having a new title to give to Seth Rollins was to not make it, wasn't it to make it different from what Roman has? Like, Seth defends it against everybody on every show. Roman doesn't. Roman is a special attraction. Like, part of the appeal of the new title was that it was going to be, quote unquote, the workman's world champion. So I don't know. I don't know what they do here.
Well, we've got a lot of Collision to cover, so let's go ahead and jump over there. I mean, just right out of the gate, they brought out CM Punk for a promo. And interesting move, takes the mic flag off immediately and tosses it to the side rather flippantly, right?
Yeah.
And he gets in a shot at the Young Bucks at one point. And I think I texted you because you had tweeted something, and I was like, okay, well, he's watching live.
I just watched the first part live, by the way. I turned it off after the promo. I was like, I have to see at least what he's going to say.
Okay.
So they got me.
Yeah.
They got me hooked.
So I texted you and was like, I'm now convinced this is a work. Because they came out, this whole ESPN interview, and Punk is like, yeah, I tried to sit down and have a discussion with these guys, and a couple of different times they were like, their lawyers responded and was like, do not contact our client, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, this is a fucking work. I have zero doubt.
So I want to talk about the ESPN article first, because we mentioned it on the last podcast with Ricky and Carmen, where when we were recording it, we were like, oh, we heard word that it's going to be explosive. Hasn't come out yet. Well, when it came out, I read it, and I was kind of like, okay, what was everybody going to be up in arms about? Like, it read like a standard issue article. Like, I think the only thing that we got out of it was, I'm willing to sit down and have a conversation with these guys, but the other side's not willing to without lawyers getting involved, or something to that effect. Which makes me think either one of two things happened. Either the dirt sheets got worked that this was going to be a big deal just because the AEW wants to then drum up ratings for Collision. Or, and as you know this, being in the media field, like, the only two people on that Zoom call weren't Punk and the journalists. There are other AEW people that are in there, okay? Is it possible that Punk actually did say some inflammatory things about the Young Bucks, and the journalist, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of the head, didn't run those quotes because obviously he has a relationship that he needs to maintain with AEW, and so he runs that, it's a situation, oh, you can run it to get the clicks, but like, good luck ever trying to get a profile on one of our guys again. And is Punk actually then, in that respect, if that's what happened, the only way those tweets, or the only way that those comments about this article potentially being inflammatory, the only way someone could know that is if they were in that Zoom call that then leaked that to the dirt sheets, thus proving CM Punk's point that these motherfuckers still think they're in whatever the fuck, Rancho Cucamonga, and they're not actually worried about running a real business, and they're just leaking everything and basically acting like middle schoolers.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of that point.
If it's not a work and the Bucks are really being like this about it, and Punk has been the one that's like, hey, let's try to work this out, then they need to grow the fuck up.
I'll say this. And now that we have a TikTok, we can clip this for the fucking TikTok. If this is not a work, and if we never get to see CM Punk versus the Elite in a ring, face to face with live microphones, hashing all this out for a story, then AEW, it will end up being a colossal failure. Not saying they're going to go out of business or go bankrupt, but I think the thing that people like you and I, people like other wrestling fans love about AEW is that we see all the potential that AEW has to be an outstanding wrestling product. Like, there's a promised land that we feel like they can get to if X, Y, and Z falls into place. But if they can't get this story inside the ring at all, they're never going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm convinced. Like, you can't change my mind at this point that it's not a work. And if it like, you were saying this at the beginning, that you can just fucking print money.
Then why, if it is, then why not call them out specifically on Saturday night and say, oh, like the Dynamite guy or whatever the fuck, like, not call them counterfeit bucks, but like,
yeah.
if we're going to do it, like, why wait? Why not do it?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question too.
Because the other side, we talk about the competition between companies all the time, or the perceived competition between companies. Fucking one night before Collision, damn, Jey Uso super kicks Roman Reigns, the biggest star in that company and the biggest story they have going on. Why would AEW then not try to steal that thunder? If fucking Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks would have come out Saturday night, no one would have been talking about the Bloodline shit on Friday.
That's true.
No one.
That's true. There's all this speculation of, will the Bucks and Omega appear on Dynamite this week? And then it came out earlier today, or maybe it was late yesterday, that there's a pre-taped segment with them.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know, man.
Well, probably here's what's going to happen, because it's our luck. We're recording on Wednesday and not
show up
Thursday. Fucking, 8:59 tonight.
That's what'll hit once CM Punk's in the ring. And we'll have to come back and fucking do this 15-minute podcast about how the wrestling world just got set on fire.
Can we record tomorrow on your lunch break if that happens?
If that happens, yeah, we'll have to.
We'll just get a bonus episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, promo was good. It got a huge pop, of course, because it was Chicago. It'll be interesting to see how he gets how he goes over next week.
Someone made this comment,
or tonight even. He's on
tonight. He's on tonight. Yeah, he is at this point kind of AEW's version of John Cena.
Yeah,
where John Cena, like in WWE, we get half cheers, half boos. AEW is just a little bit more rough around the edges, and so that's all Punk is right now. He's like, you can boo me, you can cheer me, doesn't matter. I mean, I think Ricky last week called him AEW's mascot. That's basically what he is at this point.
Yeah.
Now, he did have the title in the bag, supposedly. I mean, that's what he was alluding to,
sure.
Right?
Yeah. He said he never lost it.
And he was like, I'm not leaving this company till somebody can fill my boots. Kind of makes it seem like there's an MJF CM Punk program that's going to pop back up. I mean, it would have to, right?
I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
They've basically already covered all of the bases of who was left to challenge MJF for the title this year that you and I picked. You picked. I'm not saying I was fucking a brainchild of that, but those have basically all happened at this point.
Well, the Adam Cole had the draw.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, so we're not over that.
So yeah, I mean, but you would have to think that MJF's going to beat him in the end,
yeah.
Right? And then MJF has this apparent match with Tanahashi that he claims he's going to no-show. Like, I don't know what happens there, but like, yeah, at some point you would have to get back around to MJF and CM Punk.
Yeah.
Because remember, the last time we saw MJF and CM Punk together, MJF was calling Tony Khan a fucking mark, and then who came out the back to stop him was AEW champion CM Punk.
Yeah. Man, I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
And all that hubbub. Well, let's get into some of the matches so that we've got a lot to cover on that, since there was a lot happening in this show. So the first match was Luchasaurus versus Wardlow. Were you shocked that they put it on Luchasaurus, the TNT title, TBS title?
No. You should then follow up like, do I care? Which is also no, I don't.
Also no.
I don't. The TNT title at this point means nothing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Christian Cage will do something with it, because he was parading around the ring, which I did love that part.
That was funny.
We talk about my love for Christian Cage. The heel work he was doing at the end of that match was fantastic. But like, I don't care about Wardlow. I don't care about Luchasaurus. So I don't know. I feel like you could give this TNT title to somebody else, like another wrestler we're going to talk about on this show, that could have a long run with it. And it would actually mean something. Because right now, what does the TNT title mean? It doesn't mean anything to have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't have much else to say about that match. I just felt like we needed to mention it since the title change. But I mean, yeah, next was Andrade versus...
Yeah, but I mean, Wardlow, like, they've tried a lot with Wardlow. And I think at this point, you would just have to say, like, they failed in every single respect. They tried to get this guy over.
Yeah.
Now, is that...
He was on top of the world a year ago, less than a year ago.
And again, talk about elevators. MJF. I mean, that's the reason why he mattered, because he was the henchman for MJF. Is the failure of Wardlow on him? Is it on creative?
I think it's got to be creative, because He still looks really good in the ring.
Sure, but he's just a generic big guy.
Yeah.
Like, what makes him stand out? At least Luchasaurus has a mask. Now it's stupid, and he's got a dumbass name like Luchasaurus, but like, he's got something. What does Wardlow have?
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy moveset?
I was gonna say he is a big dude that can do Jeff Hardy moves.
I mean, cool, I guess, but like,
I mean, in terms of big dudes, that differentiates him, I think, from the other big dudes like a Brian Cage or somebody.
Yeah, but his problem is like, he gets on a microphone and like, you don't believe a single word that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah.
He feels like a dude that is just trying to play pro wrestler instead of a dude that feels genuine in who he is as a character. Like Samoa Joe does classic kind of almost cliched pro wrestler stuff, right? Like he yells in his promos. But there's a fire in that guy's eyes where he's on the screen. You go, oh, okay. Yeah, this dude, I'm hooked. Like this dude believes everything he says. Wardlow doesn't have that.
Yeah. It's a shame because I thought it'd be a lot different for him.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, like you look at where him and Dominic Mysterio have come the last 12 months. Like if we had a draft, you would take Wardlow. A year ago, you would have taken Wardlow over Dom, and now
Ain't no way.
it couldn't be further from the truth at this point. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, so Andrade versus Buddy Matthews. This is the one I was looking forward to the most in terms of the matches for the night. Number one, just because I was excited to see Andrade back, but number two, because I knew that he and Buddy Matthews would be a banger.
I have a new favorite pro wrestler. Okay. And I've gone through a lot of favorite pro wrestlers in my lifetime. Kurt Angle, obviously a favorite of mine. Sting, when I was a little kid, loved him. Here recently in my adulthood, I guess it's kind of been, I don't know if I've really had someone who's a favorite. I've had guys I'm a fan of, like Hangman and Ospreay and Kenny Omega and those kind of guys. My new favorite pro wrestler right now, without a doubt, Andrade El Idolo.
So he's a specimen.
The swagger that this dude has is absolutely unbelievable. He looks the part. He moves the part. His little funny one-liners that he has that I don't even think he's trying to be funny with, but like the okay, how you know gift that I've posted about, I don't know, 16, 17 times at this point on our Twitter page. It's like fantastic. And if they could figure out how to use this dude, he could be the biggest star that they have in AEW. But he's been off TV for forever, which can never happen again, by the way.
Yeah,
I need to see Andrade every week on TV.
He even mentioned, I think on Twitter a week or so, within the last week, that he would like to see Collision-specific titles.
Yeah, and give all of them to him. Every one of them.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't let this dude do a backspin and elbow because fucking Chris Jericho did one and it looked 100 times shittier than what Andrade did is a travesty.
He did one the other night, right?
Oh, yeah, because he's on a separate show.
Fucking just
yeah,
clobbered the shit out of it. Because when I saw it, I was like, Buddy Matthews might be dead.
That's the coolest looking move in wrestling. Any kind of back, like elbow, the way he hits it, the way it comes off like a fake kick. The fact that he just did a fucking cartwheel into a moonsault just because, like, fuck it, that's what I can do because I'm the shit. Like, it's just incredible.
Yeah, one of the things that always stands out to me about him was when it was last year, and I forgot what match it was, but you were like, go back to a certain point and watch the control he has over his body.
It's insane.
And like I can't remember if he jumped off the rope or if he jumped over it, but like he was in the air forever before he started his fucking spin.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. It was wild.
Both of those guys. That's why I love this. When they announced like Andrade versus Buddy, I was like, okay, shit, this is going to be
match of the night.
Yeah. Buddy is the same kind of way. And I think I've mentioned on this podcast before. If you give Buddy a manager, I think he can be AEW's version of like a Brock Lesnar. Where like Brock is like in WWE seen as like this monster. But AEW, is all about work rate. And so you could give him a Paul Heyman type figure that could just be like, could talk for Buddy and be like, there's nobody better than this dude. Like, look at this guy. And Buddy doesn't have to say a word, but just go out and put 5-star matches.
Yeah.
And so sign me the fuck up for House of Black versus LFI. Like, I'm down for that all the way.
Yeah.
We had a best of 7 for the trios before. Give me a best of 22, 23. Just let them keep going. I don't even care.
They came back to Andrade later backstage.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I got some people coming or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. I want to see, like, I just want to see a stable of badass Mexican wrestlers. I thought we were going to get that a little bit with like the LWO and WWE, but that's been such an afterthought. Just fucking steal that idea and just be like, hey, we're going to put all the Mexican wrestlers together and they're going to run roughshod.
I think you even mentioned that last year, right?
Yeah.
Well, because they were fixing to start it, but like Roosh is injured now though, right?
Yeah.
So like, because they were going to do like you said, Andrade and Roosh and...
I'd give all of them.
Yeah.
The Lucha Brothers, Andrade, Roosh, Dralistico, Vikingo,
Bandito.
I'd pair all of them up.
Yeah.
And just be like, Andrade's the head, he's going to be the champion, and this is our show, and we're going to take it over. And they just go out there and beat the shit out of people. Because like, it's just, he's incredible. I even love the little callback between like the Charlotte Rhea match where Buddy puts Andrade in the hold, and then Andrade gets the figure 8. Shout out to Kevin Kelly being like, or not Nigel being like, what's better than a figure 4 or figure 8?
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Props to the commentary team too. I saw a lot of shit about them on Twitter that night. Everybody was just loving it.
Oh, I think, listen, Collision's going to end up being the A show in AEW. I don't know if Tony Khan and those guys know it yet. It's going to be, because Punk's going to be on it. The look is 100 times better.
So did we text about that? Shout out friend of the show, Eddie Forsyth, text immediately. Like during the first match was like, some WWE production. And then just the way like they had the crowd lit. And I was like, are they doing that just because there's like great attendance tonight? But like it looked different. Then the announce team being down by the ring was different. I do like that AEW keeps theirs up on the stage. That's because I think that's so it doesn't all look like WWE, but it doesn't feel that way with the production. But this one had a little more of a polished feel to it.
Yeah, you know, they signed, what was his name? Mike McCreary was the second in charge, I think it was his name. That was WWE. They let go that AEW signed. The throwback to the red and yellow, the old Nitro, like, love that. I think that's what helped it pop too, is just the color scheme was different. Yeah. You know, Dynamite is kind of just the drab,
black and gold.
It's black and silver, I think is what it is. But even with Collision, they were trying out new camera shots. Like it had there was a vibrancy to that show that Dynamite hasn't had. Now, it could just be because it's a brand new show. They're trying to make a good first impression. A lot of dudes that wrestled on the show have not wrestled in months. Andrade, Miro, CM Punk, been away for 9 months.
Scorpio Sky promo.
Yeah, there was a Scorpio Sky promo. So if I have a critique about Collision, and I think it's a pretty big critique, outside of the Andrade stuff, they didn't set anything up for next week. There was no story that carried over with CM Punk.
Yeah.
It kind of felt just like, honestly, it felt like a pay-per-view that just kind of ended. Without any sort of stories continuing.
Other than Andrade teaming up with some people.
Yeah.
There wasn't much, yeah.
Yeah, Miro came out, beat the shit out of Tony Nese.
And the fact that Scorpio Sky's coming back.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. That was an interesting way to kind of ease him back in so that you didn't have to have that many people putting on matches that hadn't had matches in months.
We saw everybody that was on the Collision intro, with the exception of Thunder Rosa.
I was about to. It
was the only one we didn't see. So yeah, you know, maybe CM Punk being on Dynamite has something to do with it. Maybe Wednesday night, tonight, when we're recording this, he'll say something that will lead us to watch Collision Saturday. But there really wasn't anything that carried over.
Yeah. So Miro, we got Miro back versus Tony Nese.
Yeah.
I mean, I was excited to see him come back.
It's good to see Miro back. Now,
what are we going to do with him?
Exactly. That's the question. What happens next? And you knew as soon as Tony Nese got in the ring, like, oh, this is the Miro spot. Because they said he was in action.
Next.
Yeah, here he comes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the question with Miro has never been like, oh, is this dude like a good wrestler? He's fantastic. It's just always like, what do you do with him? Because like he can't be just a mid-carder, you know, because he's got the look. So you either have to like use him. You know, some guys only have certain utilities that you can use them with. Like that's what makes a dude like Kevin Owens so special. And I've probably mentioned this before, but like you can take Kevin Owens and literally slot him into anything. He can challenge for the world title. He can be a tag team champion. He can be an intercontinental champion. He can do comedy. He can do serious. Miro, if he ain't beating the shit out of people, the fuck you gonna use him for? You know? So
yeah,
I don't know. That's a question mark there. What happens with him?
Yeah, nice to see him back, but I hope they don't piss it away.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, Punk and FTR versus the Bullet Club and Samoa Joe, which we hadn't seen Samoa Joe on TV in a while because he's been Ring of Honor champ for.
Well, he was also Sweet Tooth, or is Sweet Tooth.
True. Yeah. Been away for a while.
Yeah. Also, just a quick sidebar. What he did in the Twisted Metal series, which I don't think's out yet, but he was basically just the body for Sweet Tooth, and Will Arnett was the voice. That's either got to be the coolest job in Hollywood or just the fucking worst. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Because he still had to memorize his lines, right? Because he still has to give them to like the scene that we saw him and Anthony Mackie are fighting. Like he can't just say nothing and Anthony Mackie just act all alone. So like, I don't know. It kind of just be like, wait a second. So I got to fucking do the fight scenes. I got to memorize all these lines. And then fucking Will Arnett just gets to go into a vocal booth in his underwear if he wants and fucking gets to do all these lines and gets top billing. Like, what the hell is this shit?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he don't give a shit. I mean, because you don't have to do your lines right. You know, he could have just like, oh, I'm going to kill you or whatever the fuck. And like, it doesn't matter how it comes off because they're just going to redub it anyway.
Yeah.
That looks like a cool show. I've never been a huge Twisted Metal fan.
I played it a little bit in college, but that was it.
I remember when Twisted Metal Black came out for the PS2. I don't remember how old I had to be. 12? 13? I remember being scared fucking shitless of that game.
So just like bumping cars into each other and shit, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to do it that. I mean, it's got a whole other story about it, but sure, yeah. But I remember Twisted Metal Black, the cutscenes just like scared me to death.
See, I don't remember any of that shit. I just remember like basically being like a demolition derby. Like,
yeah, so the PS1 games were not that scary because the graphics were shitty.
That may have been what I played. I don't remember.
But then the PS2, like the graphics blew me away, and then I was like, oh shit, like Sweet Tooth, like this is fucking scary.
Yeah. And
then like Paint It Black by the Rolling Stones was the song. So anytime I hear that song, it just gives me PTSD back to when I was fucking 12. Anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was an interesting way to end the show. You know, there wasn't much of a story there. It was just an interesting matchup.
Part of me thought, are they going to do a big fuck you to this crowd and have CM Punk like and his team lose and just have like Dash like eat the pin? You know, Jay White, they still won in Chicago. Yeah. If this would have been Vince McMahon at WWE, that's definitely what they would have done.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the end, CM Punk gets the win. Juice Robinson eats the pin. I like the match, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just good final match.
Boy, that crowd was hyped to see Punk versus Joe square off.
Yeah.
And then, like, Samoa Joe's so fucking good, man. His heel work where he gets Punk in the corner and just starts chopping him and talking shit to him. And then how about Kevin Kelly just bringing up like load management for CM Punk? Like, such great. Like, oh, he's not been in the ring a lot. Like,
yeah,
they're kind of breaking him in easy. I thought that was great too. I love Jay White. I think Jay White is a dude that you need to have at the top of the card. Everything about him is awesome. He looks fantastic. He moves great. He's a great promo.
Yeah.
Didn't we think that the Guns joined Bullet Club Gold?
There was a little tease last week, right? They helped him out at the end.
Yeah, and then there's not like nothing has come of it, and now the Guns are just having another match, and I don't know.
Maybe we'll see him tonight. Maybe we'll see Jay and Juice.
And a lot of this could just be, you know, WWE brain. from just years of Vince McMahon booking where you're like, oh, if so-and-so helps so-and-so, well, now they're a team and they're a group. And maybe AEW just doesn't, maybe it's just like, nah, we're just not going to do it that way.
AEW does that sometimes, but sometimes they don't. Like, there's been instances where like...
And then sometimes they just forget
Yeah.
that these two guys.
Somebody would run out and save somebody else, and then...
Yeah.
They're like, okay, well, it was just a good gesture. They don't always have to team up.
Yeah. So, yeah, because like Action Andrade helped Ricky start a couple weeks. Like, didn't that happen?
Yeah.
And then I think they had one tag team match, and they haven't been on screen together since. So
Yeah. So Ricky was on TV. He's the first entrant in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament?
him and Powerhouse Hobbs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, they got a lot of talent spread around over 3 shows now. They need to get some of that talent into those Friday night slot.
Friday night's going to become dead now.
Friday, it's just gone downhill like big time. I mean, it was never like the best show in the world, but like they used to have some pretty good matches on there, and they just haven't had shit lately. We should apologize to our guests last week. For one, Fat Fingers McGee over here told Carmen that we were meeting at 4:30 instead of 5:30.
An hour earlier.
Because you don't even get off work to usually between 5 and 5:30. So I said, well, 5:30. Ricky got off work at 5. He said he could be there by 5:30. Cool. Don't know how I said 4:30. We've never recorded as early as 4:30.
Never. I was trying to remember that too. I was like, have we ever done one that early? We've done one in the mornings.
I mean, maybe when we were working across the hall from each other and had wrapped up.
Maybe.
But so, so after that debacle, right? I'm just sitting there like apologizing to Carmen before y'all get there. Y'all get there, we record. The facility where we recorded last week, I have a set of keys to the place, right? Didn't have those keys with me because I was eating lunch when I got the text from Carmen that was like, hey, I'm here. So I'm just like trying to get there early. Didn't think about it. The place was open when we got there, so it wasn't a big deal. So, but everybody had left by the time we were done. So I had to wait for them to come back to the building and let us out. So not only was Carmen there early, he was there late and held accidentally captive.
For about 45 minutes.
Easily.
Easy. Probably more, actually.
So apologies to those guys. Makes for a funny story now, but I still am very apologetic. Highly embarrassed by that. But yeah, you never know. We may have a surprise episode this weekend, shorty, if something pops off.
And hey, we got a big weekend of wrestling for us here in Alabama, too.
Yeah. So the reason we're recording early, I think I mentioned it earlier, is the Battle at the Ball Field on Thursday night. New South Pro Wrestling event should be super fun. And then Saturday night, GCW is in town at the Von Braun Center. And then Sunday night, GCW versus New South 2 is happening over in Florence. And
Forbidden Door that night.
Oh, fuck. I keep forgetting about that.
It's 26, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to buy that.
You don't think you're going to buy it?
Here's the problem is I want to, but like really I think it's so much fun to go to the live events.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a lot of fucking money.
It is true. You're right. I have 2 small kids, like I was telling you before. I have to pick one. I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Saturday night and I'll watch GCW New South on Fight TV.
Unless I'm just completely exhausted Sunday, I'm going to be in Florence.
I got to watch Forbidden Door, though. I cannot not watch Danielson and Okada.
I mean,
live.
Yeah. That's a struggle.
Or Omega and Ospreay.
Omega and Ospreay,
live.
man. God, Ospreay is just so good, fucking good. So good.
It's crazy. It's crazy the amount of talent that's in the wrestling world right now.
Yeah.
That you can see, not even that are on the big stage, but like, you can turn on Fight TV and watch Wrestling Revolver or GCW, or you can catch a New South show that has, whoever stopping by.
Yeah,
it's just it's
Danhausen
insane.
walking out to Jericho's music.
It's crazy how accessible wrestling is, how good everybody is now, and I just feel like sometimes fans kind of take it for granted. So yeah, I mean, especially here, like in Alabama, like, my God, from where it was at a decade ago to now, like people like GCW, first of all, it didn't even exist, but even if they would have 10 years ago, they weren't coming to fucking Huntsville. Like Ring of Honor in its heyday was not coming to Huntsville, Alabama, you know?
Yeah.
And now this is GCW's second stop here in Huntsville this year. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah.
So shout out to everybody involved in the Alabama wrestling scene. If you're out there, kudos to you.
Yeah.
All the hard work, making it happen. Trying to make some new friends.
Yeah.
Or new friends. New fans, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And new friends.
Shit don't just happen by itself. There's always a lot of people behind the scenes.
Yeah, not by accident.
So yeah, man, we appreciate y'all listening. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and we're now on TikTok at Alabama Slam Pod. I'm going to try to keep some little videos up there, little clips from the show throughout the week or whatever. And our network of friends and fellow podcasters at The Alabama Take, or you could go to thealabamatake.com. We've got a bunch of different podcasts over there from different friends and family even. There's the Taking It Down podcast, a weekly pop culture podcast hosted by Blaine Duncan. And then there's The Song Sucks. It's like a seasonal show just about songs that suck. Check Your Shelf, a monthly book podcast. And then Taking On Sports, a bi-weekly sports podcast, obviously. And then we're kind of in a hiatus because we had an injury to one of our buddies and we just would prefer to record in person, but we have a Star Wars podcast called We Are a Star War. Hopefully we'll be back sooner rather than later. But yeah, we appreciate y'all following us. And who knows? Maybe we'll have a bonus episode. If the Bucks and Kenny show up on Dynamite, there will be a bonus episode.
As we are wrapping this up, it is 7:01 Wednesday night. We will know shortly whether we're going to be having a bonus episode or not.
With the way our luck goes, usually when we, things popping off on Friday after we record on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised. Well, thanks for listening, y'all, and we'll see y'all, talk to y'all again next week.
Later, guys.